Hey everybody, welcome to Super Comic Fun Times daily vlog. Today is Superman's birth date, so to speak. Action Comics 1000 came out. Unfortunately, I didn't make it to my local comic book store. The weather is bad here, and it was just complicated. The buses were running slow, and somebody else needed the car after I got home, so I did not make it to pick up my copy of Action 1000 today. But I did read 2 issues of Mr. Miracle, and we are coming to the end of this 1989 through slightly into 1991. We are finishing off 1990 with November 1990, number 21. And this is a great cover, especially after I read the story. I realized how great this cover is. It just gives you all kinds of story elements. They don't excuse me. They don't necessarily happen all at the same time like you see depicted here, but it does give you, like, escape to New York. That's kind of interesting. Then you have like a hot dog vendor and a guy, and they're coming through a portal. The interesting thing about this is this cover reminded me of this one back from, which one was this? Number 16, when we were on that colossal planet, and they were in the sewers of this planet, but instead of a car, they are in a sardine tin about to go over the falls. So I just kind of thought it was kind of cool noticing how similar those are. The other good news for this issue is after last issue, which was kind of a special Halloween issue, Phillips and Dvorak are back, not just on the covers, but the whole book. So it was a joy to look at. This story starts off with a recap. We have Oberon, and he's kind of giving us a recap and of the last year or so of the book. There's the head guy. I still don't know what happened to him after he vanished into the forest. Who is that? Huh. Oh yeah, that's Scott and Barda kissing. So, and then here we find out that they are moving. So they're all packing up stuff. And there's some comedic hijinks here. Scott is carrying this big box, and it turns out to be coupons. The thing about coupons is Barda doesn't know they expire. So, she's kind of doing all of this stuff, and Scott is like, how many coupons do we need anyways? And she makes a statement something like, well, Oberon might not be with us too long, but you and I are kind of immortal, so we could use like several cases of chili. And she does have a case of chili. And look, here's Captain Planet and the Planeteers. I never liked that show. I wasn't a kid when it came on, though, so I wasn't the audience. So then we get these little kind of segments here with this character, which longtime readers, readers of the original Jack Kirby run of Mr. Miracle will probably recognize him. And he's making all these kind of weird jokes, like, what happens, you may ask yourself, when the shaved fish mates with a porcupine? Wind chimes, of course. Howl through hollow bones. Yeah, I don't get it. But I mean, part of his wordplay is kind of like my sense of humor. I kind of like to do that kind of wordplay too, but I don't do it all the time. I do it more like when I'm inspired. So what's going on here is they're packing up the moving truck. Oberon is filming it, so he doesn't have to do any work. And, he's kind of documenting it. Barda does most of the work. Like what happens here is, okay, yeah, she's got the refrigerator there. I was confused because the couch is blue too. And Scott feels kind of useless since Barda can do the whole thing. And he tries to put his discs on the couch, much to the protests, in spite of the protests from Mother Box. Mother Box is like, ping, 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 which she's saying, those are for you, they're not for the couch. And he goes, adjust. And then what happens is the couch goes flying through the window, which we saw a scene like that in the last episode when Oberon criticized Barda's cooking. So then not only does it go through the house, but the couch continues to fly until it hits the moving van, and then then it hits Scott. So the whole thing backfired on him. And then what do we have here? Deep, heavy, pretentious. I kind of forget this part. When the dawn rises purple, the brontosauri move in to ruin the neighborhood. So, yeah, I kind of am not sure what's going on here. I read this morning, but look at this. This is a pattern. What is it called? A magnetron pattern. So you've got the circle in the center. And so I don't remember this story element coming back up. I mean, unless it's them moving. Pretentious, heavy, deep. Oh, I think it's the kid. I think this is in New York, Greenwich Village. And I think that's the kid, Shiloh, again. And that's why it doesn't make sense. It's like, oh, yeah, okay. And so they're packing, and then they get into the van, and one of them gets the idea that Barda has this thing. Oh, let me show you this ad first. I found this ad interesting. This is for a game called Splatterhouse. But what I found interesting is this looks like artwork taken from the early 70s run of House of Secrets. I haven't gone over that with you guys, but in the House of Secrets, a lot of the early covers, they depict a boy and a girl, and the house is sometimes, I think in the first issue, they're walking up into the house in a pose similar to this. In another issue, they're watching TV in the house, and a ghost is coming through the TV or something like that. So I found that interesting. I don't know what's really going on with that ad, but I found it to be an interesting ad. Turbo Graphics, I barely remember Turbo Graphics. I don't think it was all that successful. So yeah, Barda has this thing. It's kind of like a rod. She used it to destroy the warehouse in the episode where she gets arrested for destroying the warehouse that has nerve gas in it because it's going to be used on pets. And so, like, in order to give it to Scott, she doesn't want to do it because it's like a personal transport. I guess it can create like it can open up a portal between two places, but it's supposed to be used for personal use. But Scott modifies it because he's Mr. Fix-It, and they go through. I mean, like, doesn't Motherbox open up boom tubes for them? Why doesn't Motherbox just open up a boom tube? And this is another thing. Like when I used to drive alone a lot, go to visit my parents or whatever, I would, kind of imagine like I was driving into a porthole and then like saw myself at the end of the destination driving into the driveway and parking the car. But anyway, so like they didn't really plan it very well, and they ended up right in Midtown Manhattan in the middle of traffic. And so they come in and they go out, they almost hit this bus. So a little comedic shenanigans. And so then I guess they just decide to drive, and we got a panel of them driving. So like what's happening here is this is more like a preface. They're starting a new story, which I don't think will last too long, because I think it's going to be like 5 issues. The sales must not have been that good because, but they're starting a new story, and this is kind of like a preface. And so, you've got this stuff. It's enjoyable enough. Nothing really happens in this episode. And there's like one of the things she has is like she bought 12 cases of chili because they were on sale. And then she laments that she didn't know about coupons then. She would have saved even more money. But even just heating up chili, she burns it. So, because that's like the joke, is Barda burns things. And then like you have Shiloh here again. And like I didn't really know what was going on with him. He would just like kind of pop in for a frame and say some nonsense stuff. Like here he says, cork pagodas float, but ivory don't. And then like somebody in the audience, possibly an old lady, says, wash your mouth out, young man. So yeah, I mean, that's the level of humor that was in these books sometimes. And so while Barda is cooking, Scott and Oberon are watching the video Oberon made. I don't really, I don't know why they're doing that. I mean, the whole conceit of the video is so new readers can jump on at this point, but it does give you a fairly good recap of what's happened from probably the beginning, but at least through issue 4. It doesn't really talk about those boys who sold all of the Miracle Mister. They're gone and they're not mentioned again. And so like, yeah, this guy is oh yeah, so then Barda burns the food, and this like gives him an opportunity. It you know, it serves the plot. They go out because Oberon says, "Well, here in New York, you got like all this food over here. I can't remember what it was called, like sokova. I don't know what it's called, but sokova, sauerkraut, and hot dogs. And so like they go and they get some food, but then Mother Box starts pinging, and Scott gets excited, and then they run into Shiloh, who is doing an escape trick when somebody steals his money hat. And so, like, you know, Bartis is like, why don't we go and stop them? And he goes, let's see what Shiloh can do. And so first, and then Shiloh goes, he tackles the guy, but then like it turns out the crook has some friends. So Scott once again becomes Mr. Miracle, and Barda helped take out the bad guys. And then like, you know, they're all very excited. So I guess like in the Kirby era, Shiloh was a recurring character. And so in this series, we come to the next issue. So Scott wants Shiloh to be his successor. He wants to pass the mantle of Mr. Miracle. And this cover isn't quite as good. I mean, it does give you an idea of what's going on, but it's not really, it's not as good a summary of the story as this one. I mean, you got moving in the car, you got the street vendor, you got a guy, you know, from Manhattan getting himself a hot dog for lunch. And yeah, I mean, does Barda's rod make a boom tube? Is that what it's supposed to be? I thought the Mother Boxes made the boom tube, but you know, it just kind of shows, got a lot to learn. So yeah, this one is kind of like showing that there's two Mr. Miracles, and you've got presenting new Mr. Miracle. So like this one has a very big, it's very wordy at the beginning, and you know, everybody's like wondering where Shiloh is. Then we come to Barda and Oberon, and Barda's painting or something, and Oberon's just sitting around complaining like he normally does. And and also only mortal on Earth. Okay, so yeah, Barda's kind of in on this because, you know, I guess like this is a flashback to the early days, the Kirby years, as like, you know, since Shiloh hung out with Mr. Miracle, he kind of, Mr. Miracle taught him, and so they think he would be able to replace him. And since Barda and Scott want quiet lives, so you know, Scott's about to give him his costume, and he goes, "Oh wait, I've been dreaming of this forever. I've wanted to do this forever, and I've made my own costume, and I've made my own parts, but like my Mother Box doesn't work." And Scott explains that, like, you know, science on New Genesis is spiritual, so he kind of like helps infuse it. And then at that point, a fellow comes and is standing outside their brownstone, and you know, he just says, what we shall spy. And so like, you know, he can see into the with his spyglass, he can see into the apartment. And then like Oberon and Barda are like really curious about what Scott's doing, so they go and run to the workshop. And you know, they're kind of listening outside, and then Scott opens the door, and it's like, you know, we're just looking for our contact lenses. And Scott goes, "You don't wear contact lenses." And Barda goes, "Oh, that must be why it's so hard to find." And then you get this full page of the new Mr. Miracle, and this is where the story actually begins. The credits and the title don't really begin until here. And so, yeah, again, this is Joe Phillips and Bob Dvorak on art and Doug Mensch writing. So it's really, really, really cool. And so, yeah, so then we learn like, what's his name? Shiloh's Mother Box speaks English. And like, you know, Scott said, like, you know, and with a new and improved Mother Box, never could fathom his anyways, pings and pongs. And then the mother box just gets really verbal. Actually, the economical wealth of communication facilitated by varying pitch, quaver and tonality of, and blah, 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 blah. She just like, I think it's a mistake to have the mother box. The pings and pongs, they're fine. Once you got a talking mother box, it doesn't shut up. So then, one weird thing, well, I'll go into it. That's just, I want you to notice is Barda is wearing a purple shirt and cut off shorts here. And then Highfather shows up, and Highfather is like, well, Oberon is like against, I can't understand why you don't want to be Mr. Miracle anymore. And then like they decide to recite their vows to each other again. And it's like, I am eternal with Barda. I am eternal with Scott. Thus it was said and done long ago. And then Highfather shows up, and he's kind of pissed. It's like, so I understand you two don't want your legacy. What's he say? He says, my son, his wife, turned their backs on everything they are, and I am expected not to notice. Scott and Barda free. You have some explaining to do. So yeah. The other thing is, this is the era, there's a Twin Peaks joke in here someplace. I think it was earlier. This is the era of Twin Peaks, so they make a reference to that. That was a huge cultural phenomena in 90 to 91. It didn't last long. So Shiloh is out, and he's learning how to use the discs and stuff. And the mother box is kind of like, they're kind of fighting against each other. So like here you see the Twin Towers in New York, and then the mother box just kind of like just keep disking away from here. So like, oh yeah, so like the first thing he wants to do is go see his girlfriend and show her that he's Mr. Miracle now, but she's cheating on him. So like here in this one, you can sort of see he comes up to the window, and then it's like he cries, and it's like he cries, he gets angry, and it's like, she don't get this anymore. Shiloh's gone, babe, and so's the new man o' miracles. And then mother box, maybe she heard you've got me now, Shiloh. And he's like, and like, shut up, mother box, and just keep disking away from here. And so like, then we got another recap, is like Scott is telling Highfather everything that happened, I guess since issue 4, since the last time Highfather was here. And of course I don't have all those issues, but I'm pretty sure Thanksgiving of 1989 is the last time they saw each other. And so Mother Box decides that Shiloh needs to learn how to fly and deal with unexpected things. So she takes him up to another plane, and he's kind of freaked out. Like, this is a little more than he bargained for. And like the way I understand mother boxes to work, which I've already shown, I don't know exactly how they work because I think they create boom tubes. But I think in one of the previous issues, Scott was like talking about how him and the mother box are linked together at the subconscious level, so that in a sense, they're extensions of each other, or the mother box knows some deeper idea, some deeper things in the psyche that's, Scott's conscious mind might not know. And I think that's the same thing that's going on here. The mother box flies him into a tunnel, so you get some Looney Tunes going on here, and then he ends up clinging to the ceiling instead of getting hit by the train. And it's like, and the mother box is saying, you wanted to try out the suction circuits in your new boots and gloves, didn't you? No. Yes. Okay. Now that we've tried them out, release them. And then mother box, ping. I'm not interested in clinging here all night. You hear me? Ping. Stop pinging and speak to me. Ping. If my hands were free, I'd strangle you. So like apparently, I don't know where they're going with this, but apparently like it's not as easy being Mr. Miracle as Shiloh might have thought it was. It's like in an earlier scene when when Scott's training him, he's talking about how it was my dream and you drove this stuff into me and I'm ready to do this. And then they hear cry for help, and Shiloh is like a little afraid, and Mother Box goes, if you want to be Mr. Miracle, you have to go in there. He's like, okay, just drop me in from the top, but she drops him right in the middle of it, and then he has to use his kung fu. And just when he's going to get his reward, the kiss from the beautiful girl, the Mother Box flies him out of there and says, timing is everything. It's like, and she's like, hey, uh, yeah, he's like, now you spark the discs. And Mother Box says, timing is everything. So his Mother Box is a bit sarcastic. And it might be, maybe those clues come from his wordplay, like the way he does wordplay. And so, like, the Mother Box, like, I don't think she likes him very much. She takes him between these two buildings and kind of slams him against the windows. And then, like, Highfather is like coming to understand, like, okay, well, my son, has a chance for a normal life, and maybe, that's something I could want someday. So I can kind of understand that. And then, see, this is what I was talking about. I want you to notice that Barda was wearing cut-off jeans the last time we saw her, and now she's wearing like a pink leotard with some sort of belt. I don't know. That kind of like threw me. It didn't seem like any time had passed, but apparently it did. And so, like, he comes back, Shiloh comes back, and he goes, about this miracle thing, I think I'll pass. So then, like, the guy who was like spying on him is there in the last scene, and he says, ending surveillance for the night, nothing of import having transpired, which is, I guess that's exactly right. Like, maybe this was a fake out for the audience at the time. Maybe it was try to boost sales. There's going to be a new Mr. Miracle, and then it was just for this one issue, and then he doesn't want to do it. We'll find out, because I have 3 issues left from this run, so I really do like it. I don't know about Tom King's run that's going on now. I plan on getting that when it's a hardcover. I really like his vision. And, this probably doesn't compare anywhere to his, so I'm glad I'm reading it now before I read a really good one. But this is a lot of fun. I mean, I really do enjoy it. You get to know these characters. I really did like those ones from the like 78 that I read too. Those I would say were better. I enjoyed those a little more adventure-y. This is a lot soap opera-y. And I can't remember if Twin Peaks, I think it came out in 1990 and 91, but it could have been 89 and 90. And so this seems sort of like a long-form soap opera. And I have no idea if comic books were experimenting with that at the time or not. But anyways, well, we will get maybe I'll make it to the local comic book store tomorrow, and I'll get myself a copy of Superman 1000, and I'll try to have that read for you on Friday. I'm going to try to read the next 3 issues of Mr. Miracle before I do another vlog on it. But if something else comes up, I will vlog about that. I'm trying to think of any news. It's like I was pretty busy all day, and this snowstorm just took most of my attention. So other than Action Comics 1000, I'm not sure there's any comic news going on out there. Ethan Van Sciver is still going with his Star Wars toys thing, which is good. He might be the only person who's like buying Star Wars toys at this point, so he might actually, save some jobs. I don't know. And then Zach and Malin's Indiegogo is doing really good. They're about to hit 70,000 maybe. Maybe they were up to 65 this afternoon. I haven't checked. But yeah, that's very exciting. And yeah, those are the only bits of comic book news I picked up today. So again, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and I will do this again soon, maybe tomorrow, because it is daily. So Super Comic Fun Time out.